and welcome to Politics Unplugged. I'm Ann Trujillo. This week, we are focusing our attention on the Denver mayor race. Tuesday's election day, there are 6 people running for the Mile High City's top job, including current Mayor Michael Hancock running for his 3rd and final term. Now, 5 of the 6 candidates recently accepted my invitation to sit down and answer a series of identical questions. And we started with a very simple question. Why should you be mayor?
Well, because I'm the most qualified. I'd actually be the most credentialed mayor taking office in the history of Denver. It's because it's also time for a woman, but also a woman who knows this city. I've been born and raised here, and I would also take a smart approach. I'm a college professor. I have a law degree and a doctorate, and so I would focus on actually what works.
We have, as a city, in partnership with my administration since 2011, worked really hard and made some tough decisions to pull the city out of the depths of the recession. And now that Denver has experienced such an amazing run over the last really about 6 years, we have some tremendous opportunities that are in place to continue to make this city thrive and continue to grow in jobs, in housing, in equity, around opportunities that, to help lift those who have been left behind in this economy. And while we have a leadership that's in place that's experienced, has been time tested, I think it's important that we continue to thrive while addressing the challenges that, quite frankly, are plaguing Denver and cities across this country. Drug and alcohol abuse, homelessness, really our mobility challenges based on our growth. This is an experienced leadership team, and it's important that we keep moving forward.
I've had a long career of working on urban growth issues, urban policy, urban planning. I studied to be a city manager, and I care about the city, and I don't see leadership and vision and strategy on how we're going to grow thoughtfully. I want to protect Denver's communities, its character, its culture, and I want to do so thoughtfully as we grow into a modern urban version of ourselves, and I think I'm uniquely qualified to do that.
You know, and the city wants change, and not only change, they want new leadership. And what I've committed to this city is accessible, ethical, and transparent leadership. But more importantly, I can hit the ground running. We really need someone with experience, and my government and private sector experience, I think, uniquely qualifies me for the position.
I am a participator in the community. I ride public transportation every day. I teach underserved youth in the city every day. I live in public housing. I'm very closely connected to the communities that are most affected by our policies and city ordinances.
What do you see as the #1 priority for the mayor of Denver, the most pressing issue?
I think continuing to be good stewards in terms of the strategies around equity, and that includes the housing strategies. Today, the city of Denver is investing more money in affordable and attainable housing than the entire state of Colorado. And it's important that we make sure we're continuing those investments, that we continue the cadence of development and scoping and shaping the opportunities around housing, and making sure people are getting into those housing units. And that includes our homeless as well. And so going into the next term, I can tell you that housing, homelessness will be the top priorities for this administration, and also marrying access to affordable, reliant, and convenient transportation options.
Well, the most pressing issue, hands down, is managing the growth. And tied to that are a number of additional issues. How do we address congestion by building transit? How do we address affordability and attainable housing? How are we going to tackle thoughtfully and compassionately the homelessness challenges we have? And incredibly important, and a conversation I don't feel has been stressed strongly enough, is our environment. How are we going to grow sustainably? How are we protecting our parks, ensuring we have good air quality, good water quality, and that green space and tree canopy and our quality of life in the city is really the focus.
The most pressing issue is a combination of managing development so that we continue to grow, but it has to be done in a fashion that's harmonious with communities and neighborhoods and people who live in the city. But my top priority in my first 100 days will be to address the just explosive homeless problem we have in the city.
The most pressing issue is our housing crisis. I would like to declare housing a human right, and I would like to take some better accountability for how this land and city was colonized and taken from indigenous communities, because we're seeing the cycles of colonization repeat itself. And so we have to declare housing a human right and get everybody into housing.
Affordable housing and our homelessness crisis. I've been a 20-year services provider, so I know how to work on issues, particularly for the chronically homeless, and that means a housing first model. And housing first means we put people in housing without preconditions. We don't require them to be sober first, get them off the street, get them stable, get them services. That's one of the big reasons that we can reduce our homelessness population.
What can be done to improve Denver's public transportation?
Well, transit, the intra-city transit network that really connects our neighborhoods and community needs to be prioritized going forward. Every great city has a great regional transportation spine, which we have largely built, and a great local transportation network that knits the communities together and moves people to where they need to go. I'm a big fan of investing in streetcars. The city was built on a streetcar network, but I think ultimately what it looks like is multi-modes. How do we ensure that through either fixed rail systems, buses, bus rapid transit, that we are moving people throughout the community to the places that they need to go to get to work, to get to services, and that we're doing so in a way that's affordable and reliable?
You know, I think it requires a number of things. First is a long and very comprehensive conversation with RTD to understand what their plans are for the city. I think the second phase is to meet with neighborhoods. I have advocated for innovative things like shuttles within neighborhoods, shuttle systems between neighborhoods, but that requires talking with people and understand how they move around the city and where they need to go.
As somebody that uses public transportation every day, and I'm part of the group ADAPT who made RTD the first accessible transportation, we have the highest fares in the nation and some of the worst service. Our stops are being cut in communities of color as well as communities with a lot of disabled people living, and so we have to have more accessible transportation. I would like to see our transportation free and accessible, which would encourage more people to ride it, and then we would decongest traffic, parking. It would solve a lot of our problems.
Well, our transportation system is a reflection of our equity in Denver. And so when you look at surrounding communities, it's not very equitable. So I would want to make sure that first and foremost that we are looking at those communities that have been left out of our transit system. We need reliable, affordable, and accessible transportation, including for our seniors who are having a very tough time on our sidewalks, which are 60% in disrepair. So I would really focus on those areas that have been neglected, get transit that's reliable and affordable to them.
You know, I think, one, you want to expand the partnership with RTD and continue to work with RTD and its directors to create new innovative transit options and accessibility, improving accessibility. That's first and foremost. Secondly, do what we've done in Denver, and that is to make a very, very aggressive commitment around mobility and investment in our infrastructure. So we get more out of our streets. That's critically important. And we've also consolidated all those efforts under one department now, transportation and infrastructure, mobility and infrastructure. That's going to allow us to really focus in on the $2 billion commitment we've made. But I believe that people are focused on, are desiring options in terms of how they move about the city. And the best thing we can do as a city is to work with our partners, not only with RTD, but our regional neighbors, and say, how do we make sure they have those options? Bike lanes, sidewalk network, transit, bus rapid transit, and make sure that they're convenient, they're reliable, and they're affordable, because otherwise people won't choose those options.
When we come back, we're talking about growth and oversight of the mayor's office. Stay right there. And welcome back to Politics Unplugged, where this week we're getting to know some of the candidates for Denver mayor. Denver's a great city. The economy is strong. There is growth and excitement in many neighborhoods, yet not all Denver residents are feeling it. So I asked the candidates what they would do and what they would say to people living in neighborhoods that feel neglected.
That help is on the way. You know, I've heard some people in the current administration say that with the growth we've had, neglecting some communities or overlooking some problems is inevitable. I don't think it's inevitable. If you plan properly, if you see as your mission taking care of our city and the people in the city, you ought to be focusing resources where you know they're most greatly needed. And we've got to change this dynamic of having have and have not neighborhoods and communities.
We are gentrifying Chicanx, Latinx, Hispanics more than any city in the country right now. We're pushing out communities of color, and we're really building a city for the wealthy. We have enough empty apartments right now to house the entire state's homeless population, but of course those are being weighted for people with wealth and income. So a lot of communities of color, a lot of poor and disabled people, and a lot of our marginalized identities intersect.
And so what would you say to them?
What would I say to the communities being pushed out? Well, I would like to be able to offer land and housing to the communities that have been kicked out. Citywide, city-owned vacant properties and vacant spaces.
I would say that help is coming, that right now in this race it's been a fight among the developers, and instead I would focus on the residents who have been left out of our city's future planning. Gentrification has been a huge issue with low-income Black and Latino populations being displaced at top rates in our nation. We really need to put in anti-displacement policies so people can be in their home. That includes rent stabilization and increasing renters' rights.
Neighborhoods that feel like, we've been left behind. You already see us beginning to make investments in neighborhoods like Sun Valley and Montbello, Westwood, Globeville area, Swansea, in our infrastructure, working to preserve land so we can build more affordable housing and attainable housing in those neighborhoods. Boosting opportunities and access to rec centers and programs for the kids in those areas, moving in with strategies around opportunity index and public safety. Those are the things that we believe are going to help create a level playing field. But also people need to have access to good jobs and job workforce training opportunities. And so creating those opportunities around those neighborhoods to say, if we're bringing projects to you, you should benefit from them. You should work in those projects. So the bottom line is, we are there. We hear you. We get you. We got you. And we want to make sure we lift up those neighborhoods and those individuals who left behind during this era of prosperity in Denver.
There is no doubt, as I have traveled around the city visiting all of Denver's 78 neighborhoods, that there is disparity between the communities that have and have not. We still have not prioritized ensuring that every neighborhood has good access to transit, that they have services, that they have grocery stores, that we are protecting their schools. And so we have to get down to a neighborhood by neighborhood planning approach to make sure that we're really ensuring that people within their communities can thrive and have the services that they need, and that we're promoting strong neighborhoods, which ultimately make up a strong city.
Do you feel there's effective oversight of the mayor's office?
No, I don't. I feel like the mayor has done a really good job at doing what he wants and what he needs with the team, and that the oversight has not been overseen by the community. I'm part of the community that doesn't see this world-class city that the city likes to present itself as. The big market boom hasn't trickled down to the majority of us.
What I would do is increase independent agencies. I do not believe that Denver has been very effective in policing itself, and whether that's in the public safety department or our contracting, our housing, and how we're spending our money, we really do need to have a more accountable and transparent city government, and that's what I'm excited to bring to the city. I've been a long-time community accountability leader, and I would bring that starting as soon as I swept into office.
You know what, I think the mayor is more subject to the oversight of the people of the city than anyone, because there's only one mayor. And when the mayor, as I have, in my term, find myself having made a mistake, it's the people that I have to answer to. And so every 4 years, the people get a chance to say, do I believe in this mayor? Is this mayor driving the city in the right direction? Is the mayor making the right decisions for the present and the future of our great city? And they get to make that evaluation. And that's how I look at it, elections, really. It's every employee goes to a personnel evaluation probably on an annual basis. The mayor does it every 4 years. And that, to me, is quite frankly one of the strongest forms of oversight you can have going forward.
Ultimately, the citizens of Denver elect the mayor, and they are the oversight, the governing body, if you will, of the mayor. I do think that there is a tremendous amount of power concentrated in the mayor's office. Ultimately, the buck has to stop somewhere with who runs the city. But I think the importance is in who that leader is in the mayor's office, how they're going to work with city council, how they're going to work with community. I'm committed to a collaborative coalition building approach where everybody's invited to the table. And I think when you have that type of leader in that type of position, you can get incredible results working together.
I don't know if I'd use the term oversight. What I think people are sensing is the checks and balances are gone. That with this administration and this city council, there's not what I have seen, like when I worked with Mayor Pena, the natural tension and the back and forth between those two entities. They tend to move in lockstep, and often when they make bad decisions, there's no one to call it out.
When we come back, where the candidates stand on Initiatives 300 and 301. And welcome back. And there are two ballot initiatives getting big buzz in Denver right now. Initiative 301 would decriminalize magic mushrooms, treating psychedelics as the lowest priority for law enforcement. And Initiative 300, which would overturn the ban on urban camping, allowing people to put up tents and sleep in public places. Here's Russell Haythorne with a 360 look at the issue.
On bitter cold days like this, just surviving can be a struggle.
That's what Marines do, man.
And while Jerry Burton tries to stay upbeat,
It'll be easy as peasy.
sometimes a tent is his only option,
All right, let me see this one.
which is actually illegal in Denver. Denver's current urban camping ordinance bans tarps, sleeping bags, and tents in public. Initiative 300 would reverse the ban. Homeless advocates say the ban is cruel and unusual. Camping ban supporters say allowing people to sleep in public is unsafe and unhealthy. Homeless individuals say they have a right to survive, and yet others say there's got to be a better way. So let's take this 360.
We're taking it to the people.
Therese Howard with Denver Homeless Out Loud says the camping ban isn't only inhumane, it's unconstitutional.
Violating the 8th Amendment right of cruel and unusual punishment.
But Alvina Vasquez is with No on 300, a coalition that believes we can do better.
This ballot initiative doesn't really solve the issue for homelessness. It doesn't provide any funding or taxes or resources.
No on 300 says reversing the ban would allow camping in right-of-ways between the sidewalks and curbs in any neighborhood.
It pretty much says anyone can camp anywhere as long as they want.
Julio Alvers says he's witnessed it firsthand.
It was 110 and now it's 7.
For him, it's about public health and safety.
First of all, they don't have a bathroom.
Denver's ban went into effect in 2012. Taking a look at the numbers, it's certainly not a highly ticketed offense. In 2014, the DPD contacted 807 campers, but ticketed or arrested only 15. In 2015, police made 2,600 contacts, but ticketed or arrested only 2. In 2016, 5,000 contacts, only 9 tickets, and in 2017, 4,600 contacts, only 5 tickets. And that brings us back to Jerry.
Jerry is our neighbor.
Scott Frank is a business owner who says this is about much more than camping.
The larger issues, as we all know, and that's what everybody would say, is about affordable housing, is about mental health, things like this. It's freezing out here today, and it's affecting people's lives.
Jerry says the city is failing on homelessness, including his councilman, ALBUS Brooks.
I would not vote for him to be pageant of a dog show.
Jerry has a tent to stay in. He's actually putting this one up for another homeless man.
You can't preach the talk if you're not walking the talk. So it's not just him. I help anybody out there want to survive out here.
Russell Haythorne.
Boy, you got your nice little house there, man.
Denver 7.
All right, so here's a look at where the candidates stand on 300, the right to rest. Hancock, Gillis, and Tate are against the measure. Heffernan supports it. Calderon is not taking a position. And those positions echo what the candidates told me about the psychedelic mushroom measure, Initiative 301. And before we go, we want to answer a question you might have about Kaylin Rose Heffernan. You probably noticed her mustache. She drew it on seconds before we started taping her interview. So when we were done, I had to ask her what it was all about.
Explain the mustache. Well, I'm a performer, and so I guess there's never been a woman mayor, so maybe if I wear a mustache, it'll increase my chances of winning. What do you think? Maybe? Who knows? Who knows? Why not? The question is, why not?
Why not? Listen, if you ever have a question or a segment idea for us, tweet us at Denver 7 Politics. And you can always watch today's segments anytime at thedenverchannel.com/Politics Unplugged. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you back here next Sunday for another edition of Politics Unplugged.